Welcome back, sweet teacups, to yet another reading. We are continuing the We Three Kings story, and as stated before in other streams, I will be reading this one. I will be keeping a check on the stream chat, but I will not be able to answer any questions until the end of the stream. As a recap, we are 7 chapters in on the story. If you wish to watch the other ones, they are on my Twitch, and if they are not on my Twitch, reach out and I have them saved for convenience sake. So pull up a chair or sit down comfortable, lie down, get a drink, get snacks, or you can have me in the background. That is up to you. But let's continue. We Three Kings. Anastasia's point of view. College was a new experience, of course, but I enjoyed it. Thanks to the high scores on my advanced placement tests, I was able to skip most of the lower level classes, basically going directly into my given major, give or take a few classes here and there. But nonetheless, taking over nearly a year and a half of prereqs, therefore a year and a half of school, was totally worth all the work I had put in high school. As a double major at MTCU, I was kept quite busy, but still managed to join sports and clubs. I suppose it was in my personality to do so. The first year, I spent my breaks going back to Forks to visit my dad. However, the following year, unable to do so because I had gotten a job. The year after that, as a senior, I was graduating a year early due to the advancement placement courses, taking off a year of classes. I was studying a semester abroad in England and flew back to Forks only briefly, since the semesters between MTCU and the school I was attending in London did not line up at the same time. Thus, I had an extended break. It would be there I would ultimately find my destiny, though I wouldn't realize it quite yet. England would send me one step closer to Volterra and the Volturi. Now a newborn army. No one's point of view. Volterra was quiet in the following months after Anastasia's younger sister and the 2 Cullen siblings left the castle, and business went on as usual. Only a few rogue vampires to deal with that went a little too out of bounds. Other than that, life moved forward. Anastasia was finishing up her second quarter of her first year of her MBA and was going a little crazy and drowning in work. Honestly, she felt like you see the basket full of crazy. After a few days from the initial visit, Caius, Aro, and Marcus had calmed down enough from the memories of Bella's tantrum towards Anastasia to think straight and not want to hunt her sister down and extract some sort of vengeance or threat to destroy half of the guard for breathing, metaphorically of course, since vampires didn't breathe, wrong in her direction. While Anastasia knew was the mating bond and their fierce overprotectiveness of her and did think it was sweet, she also thought it was a little overkill and sometimes a little suffocating. Of course, the quiet couldn't last long, and of course, as Anastasia had secretly suspected, had to involve her sister in some fashion. Lounging in the library in a rare moment of not doing coursework, Dmitri sweats in. My queen, Dmitri greets. Hello, Dmitri. Anastasia smiles, greeting the tracker and a part of her own personal guard. Aro, Caius, and Marcus had gone completely overboard when she had gotten here and had assigned her the elite guard as her own for whenever she wanted to leave the castle or when she was in the throne room. Honestly, it went back to her being probably the safest human on the planet. Complete overkill. The three kings alone were formidably enough to keep her safe, which she knew they would were someone to actually threaten her life. There is news. The kings believed you would wish to hear it. I was sent to retrieve you, Dmitri informs. Thank you, Dmitri, Anastasia says, rising from her place on a comfy couch and placing her bookmark in her book and setting it aside. So, how was training this morning? Anastasia asks pleasantly as they walk through the winding halls of the Volterra castle. It went well this morning, my queen, Dmitri answers. Dmitri, what have I told you? Anastasia says, tapping Dmitri's arm lightly. Anastasia, Dmitri corrects with a slight smile. Better, Anastasia smiles back, satisfied, hooking her arm into his. I beat Felix this morning, Dmitri continues to talk, his smile turning almost feral. Oh, I bet he hated that. Anastasia laughs. Her laugh, gentle, like bells or charms. It was nice to listen to. He did, Dmitri confirms. Dmitri liked his queen. She was nice to the guard. All of them. When she originally arrived, the entire guard had been not known what to anticipate. For one, she was human. And humans, well, they were fragile and often so needy. But she wasn't. Well, she was fragile to an extent, but that wasn't her fault. Humans were inherently fragile compared to vampires. However, she wasn't all that what they were anticipating. Needy was not what they would describe her at all. She was fierce in the best of ways. And despite the fact that queens would kill without hesitation if she were to be harmed in any way, or even if she simply wished or willed it on whim, and her status far exceeded any of their own, she hardly acted like it at all. She actually cared and desired a relationship beyond just that they served and protected her. They had gained her loyalty fully because of this. Dmitri was happy to serve and protect his queen without any prosecution needed for eternity or his dying act. Dmitri, Anastasia questions, touching his arm. Yes, Mike, Anastasia, Dmitri quickly corrects. Is everything okay? Anastasia asks, looking concerned. Everything is fine, Dmitri smiles assuringly. All right. Well, if something is bothering you, you can tell me, Anastasia offers. Of course, Dmitri nods. Pushing into the throne room moments later, Dmitri allows Anastasia's arm to slip from his as she walks towards her mates. The king's practically preening under her gaze. Ah, el miso amore, Otto exclaims, offering his hand. Hello, Aro, Anastasia greets, allowing Aro to pull her into his embrace. Aro purrs happily, nosing at her neck's pulse point. What is it you wanted me to hear, Aro? Anastasia asks, gently pushing Aro away after a moment. There's a situation, Amore, in Seattle, Washington. Marcus begins, pulling Anastasia towards himself, wanting to greet her now. Okay, and this means what type of situation? Newborns. An army of them. Caius informs his mate. Ah, I understand. So what do you propose to do? And do you believe this has anything to do with the Cullens? Anastasia asks. Perhaps. Either way, they've drawn too much attention. They need to be dealt with swiftly. Caius answers his mate. I see. Then we send the guard. Simply. Newborns are prone to be violent. So we send the elite guard, Anastasia answers. Dmitri to track them clearly. Felix is the strongest. Jane and Alec, obviously. And a few others to aid them. Your guard, Aro protests. I am hardly going to be lacking remaining in Volterra. Afton can remain here, or if you prefer, I can go with them if you're so concerned. Anastasia cuts off. All three of the kings snarl at the thought of their mate close to the newborn army. Actually, taking a vacation to Fork sounds nice right now. I haven't seen my dad in over a year. This is a perfect excuse, Anastasia says, thinking about it some more. No, absolutely not. I will not allow it, Marcus hisses, curling around his mate, restricting her from moving. And you do not control me, Marcus. I am not a pet to leash, Anastasia growls, moving to push Marcus off her. Diletto, be reasonable. The newborns, Caius tries to plead, the irrational fear of his mate coming anywhere near a newborn as a human threatened to consume him. No, you do not control me. I will go to Forks if I damn well fucking please, Anastasia hisses, her blue eyes filled with fire as she struggles to get out of Marcus's iron grip. Let me go, Marcus, now. Amor, Marcus pleads, not wanting to hurt her, but fear making it near impossible to let her go. Now, Marcus, Anastasia commands. Marcus releases her immediately. Tesoro, Otto tries, reaching out to try and appease their furious mate. Anastasia only growls, shooting her mates a furious look before storming off. Dmitri immediately opening the throne room doors and slinking off after her, not wanting the ire of either of the kings or the queen aimed at him. A short time later, the three kings finds their maids lounging in their bed reading her favorite book, music playing in the background, seemingly much more relaxed than before. Amor, Marcus questions, looking repentant. Anastasia looks up from her book and tilts her head in a beckoning gesture. I do not wish to leash you, Miss Okare, Marcus says quietly, burying his nose into his mate's neck. It is a frightening thought to lose you, Merigina, Aro says, as Caius and he curls close to Anastasia as well. I know you meant well. You always mean well. I'm not angry anymore. I just miss my dad. Anastasia replies, curling closer to her mate's book set aside. We cannot lose you, Anastasia. You are our true mate. We have waited 3,000 years for you. Marcus says, sounding desperate. Hey, shh, you're not losing me. I'm right here. Calm. Anastasia assures them, allowing them to curl closer to her, practically smothering her with their bodies. What's the difference? I mean, I'm, your true mate. And my sister with the Cullen boy, la too content? Anastasia asks. Despite the fact she's been in Volterra for a year, she hadn't realized there were different bonds. Bloodsinger. Your sister is the Cullen boy's bloodsinger, which means her blood appeals to him more than any other human in the world. Aro begins to explain. It's exceptionally hard to refrain from succumbing to the temptation. And I'm not that then? Do I not appeal to you like that? Anastasia asks, struggling to understand, wondering if she should be relieved and oddly offended at the fact at the same time. Did her blood smell bad to her mates? You do not smell bad, il mio amore. Very appealing. Haru cuts in, nosing along her collarbone for emphasis. Anastasia smiles ruefully, remembering Aro could pick up on her thoughts. So my sister, basically like the most tempting food Edward will ever come across? Anastasia tries to put into words so she can understand. Yes, Marcus says, his lips moving across her temple. That sounds really not like a good thing, Anastasia says. No, usually a bloodsinger is killed, Kaya says flatly. But in some cases they are turned, but it doesn't guarantee a true mate. Okay, so true mate, us, which you explained to me already, Anastasia says softly, smiling contently. Yes, we are, Aro agrees. Your scent, it is appealing to us. Do not think it is not. Think of it as when you think of comfort and home and safety. That is what your scent is to us. And your bond to us, which Marcus sees, is golden, and it binds you to us. A bloodsinger does not guarantee that. Any of that. I understand, Anastasia says, nods, sighing and relaxing into her mates, all three of them purring contently. The bond. It hurt you when I wasn't here, when I was in England and I was rejecting you, Anastasia finally says. Yes, Stiletto, it did. Marcus answers, nosing his face closer to his mate's neck. I am sorry, Anastasia apologizes softly. There's nothing to be sorry for, il mio amore. You did not understand, Aro says softly. We have waited 3,000 years for you. We would have waited longer. The pain was nothing we could not endure. Caius explains, brushing his hand along her arm. I still want to go to Forks, Anastasia says after another moment. Aro sighs. We will not convince you otherwise, will we? Marcus asks. No, not really. You're sending the elite guard. Obviously, Afton will come if I'm coming. And if it will make you feel better, you can send a few more with me. It will be perfectly safe. Do you really believe any of them will let something happen to me? Anastasia asks. It would only be for a week, two at most, but that's highly unlikely. Very well, Diletto, Aro finally sighs. Thank you, Anastasia says. Then Volterra and first meetings. No one's point of view. England was wet and cold, and there were a lot of clouds, much like Forks, to be honest. But Anastasia was having a good time and meeting a lot of friends through the exchange program, though not a lot of actual English people, to be honest. They were a bit stuck up. The college was great, however, and she did not regret studying abroad the least. She enjoyed all her courses and the experience she was having. Currently, though, Anastasia wasn't in England at all. She and several of the friends she had made had taken a few days' trip to Italy, to Volterra, since the school was on break for some random reason. Honestly, English school were structured very different than American. Not that she was complaining by any means. The day in Volterra was overcast, a contrast to the day before, which had been bright and sunny. However, it was still pleasant enough to enjoy a walk through the city street. Anastasia and her friends Jeremy, Jacob, Michael, Ariel, and Mallory had just finished shopping and were leisurely walking the streets, admiring the old architecture of the stone citadel and surrounding castle. While the three kings rarely left the security and confined castle, mostly because they felt there were little need or desire to do so, the outside world holding no appeal over the centuries they had been alive. It was on this rare occasion and day Aro, Caius, and Marcus, with the cloudy overcast the ideal cover, had decided to leave the Volterra castle. In doing so, two worlds would soon collide. Walking through the main square of Volterra, most of her friends further ahead of her chattering, only Jeremy beside her. Anastasia had stopped to take a picture of a particular angle of the castle. She had finally set her camera back in its bag, smiling at the children playing around the fountain and square. This is nice, huh? Jeremy asks, nodding towards the children playing. Yeah, it is. Nothing like where I grew up. I mean, of course we played in parks, but this is totally different, Anastasia answers. Same. Jeremy nods with understanding. Jeremy was from Australia, and though Australia had its big cities, certainly wasn't the same either. Out of the corner of Anastasia's eye, Anastasia suddenly catches a sleek black Cadillac driving into the square. The same time a ball rolls into its path, one of the girls chasing after it. Anastasia reacting without thinking, adrenaline pounding through her veins as she runs, dropping all of her things. Anna, what? Jeremy calls after her, startled. Barely yanking the girl out of the way of the Cadillac, Anastasia collides with the hood with a thump. Thankfully, relatively unharmed as the Cadillac screeches to a halt. Settled into one of the Volterra's Cadillacs, Aro, Caius, and Marcus are seated comfortably, watching as the Volterra streets roll by slowly. People walking along the side, children playing, and then occasionally dog or cat along the side, fleeing into their respective houses, while Felix drives. Suddenly, the Cadillac lurches to a stop, Felix slamming on the brakes, tires screeching, the smell of rubber burning and metal sparking. Felix, what was. Aro began to speak. I apologize, master, Felix begins to say, only to be cut off by Caius' growls. Caius, what is it? Aro asks, turning to his brother, slightly shocked at Caius' out of character reaction. But Caius could barely focus on anything else but the young woman standing outside the Cadillac, suddenly consumed by everything that was her, drowning in her scent and being. She was his mate, his true mate. Outside the dark tinted windows, a girl standing, dark brunette hair, tan skin and toned body is all they can see. An older woman also stands, speaking rapid Italian, holding a young child to her protectively. I apologize for my very bad Italian. Grazie, 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 mi ha salvato la bambina. The woman keeps repeating in a panic, rushed tone. Mate, Caius growls again, nose flaring to take in her scent. Marcus turns, his gaze focused on the girl intensely. Indeed, I can see her bond to us, all of us. She is ours, our true mate, Marcus confirms, far more composed, but not less pleased. We have found her. I am sorry, I don't understand what you're saying, Anastasia says hopelessly, staring at the older woman as she clutches the young girl to her. Anastasia hoped that she wasn't scolding her or yelling at her for some reason. She was only trying to keep the girl from getting run over by the car. She wasn't trying to kidnap her or anything. She is saying thank you. She is telling you that you saved her little girl. A male voice says from behind Anastasia. Anastasia nearly jumped from surprise, turning to look behind her, eyes widening for a second at the three men. The three kings believed that if the world would have burned around them in that moment, that they wouldn't have given the slightest care. Their mate was more beautiful and gorgeous than they had ever imagined she would be. And everything else in their 3,000 years of existence had suddenly seemed like a blip or blur comparatively. She was a shining beacon, a burning sun, and for her they would gladly burn 1,000 times over. Oh, you're welcome. It was no problem. Can you tell her that, please? Anastasia says, looking between the man and the older woman. Dinette no era un problema, the man says to the woman. Grazie, the woman says again, before ushering the young girl away. I am Aro. This is my brother Caius and my other brother Marcus. It was our car that you saved the little girl from. I believe you had the unfortunate accident of running into. Are you alright? Aro introduces, gently indicating to himself and then his brothers. While he would love to offer his hand, he did not want to violate his mate's mind without her knowing. I'm fine. My name is Anastasia. Thank you for asking, Anastasia offers. Anna, are you alright? You look like you hit the car pretty hard. We should go back to the hotel. Jeremy finally rushes up to Anastasia, touching a caring hand to her back, having had to grab her bags on his own. Oh, hey, Jeremy. Yeah, I'm fine. I'll just take some ibuprofen if I need some later, Maybe a bruise or something. No biggie, Anastasia says. Is my camera okay? Yeah, I checked it. It's fine, Jeremy says, handing it over. Aro, Caius, and Marcus had to bite back a growl at a male being so casual with their mate. Anastasia, Aro asked politely, interrupting carefully. We feel ever so bad about what happened. About you join us for dinner to make up for it. Anastasia blinked once at the sudden offer, her gaze casually evaluating the men in front of her. While they certainly didn't look much older than her, there was something that was off about her. Something that just wasn't quite right. Perhaps, maybe even dangerous. That instinctively set them apart and made her a bit wary. I appreciate the offer, but I have plans this evening. Anastasia declines gracefully. Have a good evening. And that is where we will stop for tonight. I hope that you have had a wonderful time. If there's any questions, you can ask them now. If there's not, I hope you have had a good time. And to recap, this is the 9 chapter we're on now. If you want, I think this is 9 chapter. 10 even. No, we're on chapter 10. We read chapter 9. If you want to listen to the chapters before, they are in my Twitch. If they're not on my Twitch, reach out to me and I have them saved just for that occasion. I hope you will have a wonderful Saturday and a wonderful Sunday, and we shall probably see each other in tomorrow, maybe? I don't know. Maybe. We shall see. Have a great time.